Half-Life 2 is probably one of the most popular shooters ever made. It was incredibly innovative for its physics technology, and it's also known for its characters, its story, and its overall look. It still holds up incredibly well to this day, and despite having a very 2000s feel, it honestly could pass as a game that came out today. Now, that's not really what I'm here to talk about. Yes, I'm here to talk about Half-Life 2, but what if I told you, oh no, this is a big shocker, that there was a different version in the game. However, this version of Half-Life 2 was a lot darker and a lot more grim, and it was pretty much a horror game. I would say that had that version we got, if we got that version, I mean, sorry, I'm off script again, just so you know, but if we'd gotten that version, I reckon probably would have been a very good spiritual successor to a game like Fear or Condemned, or it would probably just be a really well-known horror game. But either way, I don't think it'd be as popular as the same reasons as it is today. Now, let's go back to where this all started, with the 2004 leak. On October 2nd, 2003, a German hacker known as Axel Gembe hacked into Valve servers. There, he accessed the source code for the beta of Half-Life 2. He got access to several versions of the beta, one from 2003, one from 2002, and one from 2001. He also leaked or at least the source code of the map Get Your Free TVs, which was a tech demo to show off the technology of Half-Life 2. During this time, Valve was pretty much in shambles. They didn't really know who'd done it or what to do. Obviously, by this point, Half-Life 2 was becoming the version that we know today, but at the time they were still worried. So what they did, once they found out who the hacker was, they decided to do a very smart thing. They basically contacted the hacker and offered him a job, pretended to at least, and then they were going to get him to the Valve headquarters and bring in the FBI to arrest him. However, German authorities got to him first, and they were unable to go through with this sting operation. The German authorities, funnily enough, did not arrest him for the Half-Life 2 hacking, or Valve hacking, whatever. They actually arrested him for completely different charges. So, yeah. Valve, even though they were in panic mode originally, decided to not do very much about the files getting out. Possibly because of the fact that, again, they were already working on the retail version of Half-Life 2, or the reworked version, whatever you want to call it, and the beta was pretty much full of scrapped content and was obsolete. Now, like I said earlier, this version of Half-Life 2 was meant to be a lot darker and a lot grimmer and a lot just more messed up in general. City 17 would have been more of a industrial looking place and would have looked more modern compared to the retail City 17, which was set in a more of a Eastern European place rather than an industrial American looking place. City 17 would also have been engulfed in gas, and the majority of your time there, Gordon would have to wear a mask in order to not get killed by the gas. In City 17 there was also, funnily enough, child NPCs, which do not exist in Half-Life 2 because of the fact that the Combine has a suppression field that prevents citizens from having children. So there's that. But it's interesting to see them actually in the game, and they were creating things, heads for enemies called Cremators, I believe, which were kind of like bigger Combine dudes, and they walked about with flamethrowers, and they were very powerful to fight against, I guess. Well, they were. They used flamethrowers or emulator beams, which were in itself pretty overpowered, but you could pick them up after you killed them. The Combine also would have sounded a lot more human-like compared to how they sounded in the final game. In the final game, they really all sound the same, which gives the illusion off that they're not human, which is technically true. However, the Combine, aside from their voice filter, would have sounded like normal people. Now, obviously, this was because the Metro Police were actually meant to be, well, just regular civilians. And while they are technically in the retail version of Half-Life 2 and I guess Half-Life Alyx as well, they're modified in a way and they're experimented on that they just kind of become mindless drones that are securing the air, not securing the area, but basically policing the place, compared to this version where they were just regular people. But however, Combine soldiers and Combine elites and assassins, they were modified beyond being recognized as a normal human. Now, obviously, there was a lot of cut enemies from this version in the game. One of the most well-known ones being the Hydra, which is we don't actually know too much about, and we haven't even seen its full appearance, apparently. But we know that it was very overpowered, and it was very difficult and not fun to fight against, and it was removed from the game. We generally don't really know much about it, but I reckon it probably would have been something like a chase sequence where you would have been chased by the little tentacle, and then you would have eventually got to fight it and kill it. I don't know if there would have been more than one Hydra, or if it just would have been one singular boss fight, but, you know, either way, it's an interesting idea. But I agree, because some people have went to restore the NPC for at least the Hydra Tentacle, and yeah, it's not fun to play against. It's pretty overpowered. It can kill you in literally one hit. So, you know, if that was in Half-Life 2, I think I would be very easily angered if that was in the game. There was obviously other cut enemies, such as the Cremator, the Crab Synth, the Combine Assassin, which was basically the Black Ops Assassin from Half-Life 1, albeit a lot more obnoxious. If you want me to tell you what it is, it's basically a female Combine soldier that jumps all over the place. But anyway, I think we should get back on track. Let's go with the tone. Now, the tone of this game, again, a lot darker, a lot grimmer, probably said that 3 times within the video, but it was a lot more like 1984. I think it's George Orwell's 1984. Combine was a lot more aggressive, a lot more obvious with their presence on Earth. They drained majority of humanity's oceans. They would kidnap people to experiment on them. Everything that they made was alive, including the Citadel. The Citadel was a giant organic being. Because you would be able to, much like the retail version, you would be fighting your way through the Citadel, and you would hear some noises that would just come out of nowhere. You would have this unsettling feeling. There would be like meaty kind of hallways. There'd be pipes all over the place with like veins in them and shit. I don't know if this is true, but I'm sure someone said that there was like a room, and it would, like, the walls would kind of move in and out like something was breathing. And, yeah, Stalkers on there were obviously a lot more messed up, but I love the idea of the Citadel being alive, and it really adds to the whole kind of horror element of the game, or what could have been the game, at least. The whole beta would have been very unsettling, and you would have been very uncomfortable throughout the game. Like, head crabs and zombies were a lot more graphic, I believe. There was a lot of monsters that were in the game that were completely shrouded in mystery. So, for example, the Hydra. We would have known absolutely nothing about it, I think. Whether we saw what it looked like or not, it would have just been there. And that's a really good thing about the beta, is the fact that a lot of it, or at least a lot of the monsters, are shrouded in mystery. And it really adds to the whole kind of mysterious, unsettling feeling. The whole ambience itself was just very, again, uncomfortable. And it was honestly creepy at times. And, you know, again, what you were listening to, it didn't sound human. It sounded very alien, like nothing we had heard before, or at least by those days' standards, something that you wouldn't hear on planet Earth. But I think you've had enough about me rambling about the tone. How about we talk about some of the differences and some other things, but mainly differences from the main game. Now, Eli Vance, this is a very major one. Eli Vance is a very central and important character to the whole plot of Half-Life 2. He's the leader of the Resistance and the father of Alex Vance, who is a very important character as well, and the main protagonist of Half-Life Alyx. Eli Vance was originally never going to be Alex's father at all. Her and Eli would have had no relation. Eli would have just been a very close friend to the family. Alex's father still would have been in the game. He would have been leader of the conscripts, which was, like, I think the remnants of the US military, and they were originally supposed to be hostile. I think the Resistance also existed as well. So I think they were originally supposed to be hostile towards Gordon and the Resistance, but then they sort of kind of morphed into being an ally towards Gordon. Alex's father was Captain Vance, and he was the leader of the conscripts, and that's really all we know about him. Breen, who is the administrator or the mayor of City 17, was very, very different from the beta version. In the beta, he was known as the consul. Consul? I think? The consul, yeah. And he had like a more of a Eastern sort of European accent, and he would basically spread propaganda to this around the city and kind of made everyone paranoid pretty much to try and get everyone on his side, you know. And yeah, I'm just gonna play some of his voice lines so you can get a better understanding. 'Cause, I did have a different clip for this by accident and deleted it trying to fix things. So yeah, I apologize.
The true citizen knows that duty is the greatest gift. The true citizen appreciates the comforts of City 17, but uses discretion.
Now, there is one thing I would like to touch on, about an interesting voice line that Eli warns Gordon about a particle storm that's apparently a cut enemy or something that's undefeatable, or so that I know of, so I'm going to play it right now.
You've never been out there before. I have one piece of advice. At the first flicker of green light, you run. First storm I saw, I made the mistake of stopping to study it. That's how I lost my leg. I've seen them take out whole squads, reeling in soldiers, tearing gunboats to bits. Some say it's only an electrical disturbance, but if you ask me, there's an intelligence in there somewhere. If only we could communicate with it. A force like that on our side. Now that would be a powerful ally.
Yeah, so that's all I'm gonna talk about to do with the Half-Life 2 beta, because there is so much to go over, and I've only covered the surface. There's too much to put in one video. I may make more. Problem is, I don't like switching accounts very often, so if I make another Half-Life 2 beta video or whatever, you won't see it for a little while. But anyway, yeah, please have a look into this. Please go check out Half-Life 2's Project Beta's channel, because a lot of this is on them, because they managed to restore the majority of beta content. And obviously there's the hacker guy, but I think he's in jail, so but yeah, a lot of this is on Project Beta. I think without them we wouldn't, and Mark Laidlaw as well, the writer of Half-Life, but without them we wouldn't know this. There's the whole majority of the plot is out there as well. You can actually find it in the Half-Life 2 book that Mark Laidlaw wrote. But there's more than one, I think, and again, it's way too long to go into right now. I will cover it, maybe, if it's wanted, or if I want to do it. I'll write a script for it this time, don't worry, so there won't be a lot of pauses, there won't be multiple takes or anything. Well, there probably will be, but there won't be as many, and this video won't be 15 minutes long. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little look at the Half-Life 2 beta. Yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.